Everything you're about to hear actually happened. None of it is made up. It was October 14th, 2018, when a group of teenagers disappeared near the Forsyth cabin in upstate New York, and for weeks no one knew why. Locals whispered that anyone who dared enter the woods that night never came back the same, or at all. I wasn't there, but my friends were. And what they experienced, no one would believe if it weren't recorded. Jenna was the first to sense it. They'd only been walking for 10 minutes when the forest fell completely silent. Not a single bird sang. The wind stopped mid-breath. Even the leaves seemed frozen. Guys, do you hear that? She whispered, gripping her flashlight so hard the light shook. Tyler scoffed, but the laugh caught in his throat. It's just the wind, right? That's when they saw it. A shadow, unnaturally tall, slipping between the trees. No movement of its own, just appearing. And it wasn't human. Not entirely. Sarah's knees gave way. This isn't a joke, she whispered. This is real. Mark tried to calm them. We're just nervous. It's an old cabin, probably some local vagrant. But Liam, the quiet one, had stopped moving. His flashlight had fallen to the ground, illuminating only the mist curling around his feet. It's watching us, he said, his voice trembling. The cabin itself looked harmless from the edge of the clearing, just a ruin, a shadow of wood and moss. But the second they stepped closer, Jenna felt the air change. It was thicker, almost alive, pressing against her chest like it wanted her to turn back. Then came the whispers, soft at first, almost inaudible. Words in a language none of them recognized. The whispers grew louder, echoing through the trees, circling the teens, and then the door moved, on its own. A creak so loud it pierced the silence, followed by a hollow thud from inside. Tyler froze. Mark wanted to run, but his legs wouldn't obey. The first thing you need to understand about Forsyth Cabin is this. It doesn't like being entered. And the forest has a memory. It remembers every person who dared come too close. That night, my friends would find that out the hard way. The first step inside the cabin smelled like wet wood and rot, like 1,000 dead leaves pressed into the floorboards. Dust hung in the air, visible in their flashlights like tiny ghosts floating midair. Each step they took sounded deafening, echoing off the walls as if the cabin itself was laughing. Stay close, Jenna whispered, grabbing Mark's sleeve. Tyler moved ahead, flashlight trembling in his hand. It's fine. See? Nothing here. But then he stopped. The beam of light caught something in the corner, something that wasn't there before. A rocking chair slowly moving back and forth, and it moved as if someone invisible was sitting in it. Who's there? Tyler called out, forcing a shaky laugh. No answer. Only the whispers growing louder. The air grew colder, the kind of cold that makes your bones ache. Sarah wrapped her arms around herself, teeth chattering. I don't want to be here, she stammered. Jenna nodded. We need to find something, anything that proves this place isn't just haunted. We need proof for the story. Mark scoffed, but even he flinched as a shadow darted across the wall, too fast to be human, and then came the first scream. It wasn't one of the friends. It was a deep, guttural sound like a person being strangled, but distorted, echoing as if it came from everywhere at once. The teens froze, hearts hammering. Liam swallowed hard. That came from the basement. No one wanted to go down there. The entrance was a trapdoor, its edges warped and broken, but curiosity and fear pushed them forward. Tyler lifted the door, and a foul smell of decay rushed up like it wanted to choke them. The stairs groaned under Tyler's weight. Each step seemed to echo into eternity. The shadows on the walls moved with him, twisting, stretching, forming shapes that didn't belong in this world. You really want to do this? Jenna asked. Tyler nodded, but his voice shook. We need to see what's down there. The basement was small, dark and filled with strange symbols painted on the walls, shapes like eyes, twisted faces, lines that seemed to move when you looked away. And in the middle, a circle, charred and blackened. Ritual, Liam whispered. Someone performed a ritual down here. Maybe the disappearances. He never finished the sentence. Something cold wrapped around his ankle. A hand, or something like a hand, gripped him from the shadows. Liam screamed. Jenna lunged for him, but Tyler grabbed her arm. Don't! It's too strong! The circle in the center glowed faintly, pulsing like it had a heartbeat of its own. The whispers became words, commands, screams, pleas, and through it all the teens realized one horrifying truth. They weren't alone. Something had been waiting for them, something that didn't want them to leave. The first contact, it started small, cold. The silence didn't last. Not for long. As Jenna tried to steady her breath, the cabin seemed to inhale around them. Walls groaned, floorboards creaked, shadows stretched and twisted like living creatures. The teens, Jenna, Tyler, Sarah, Mark, and Liam, realized one terrifying truth. They were trapped, and the cabin knew it. Tyler scrambled to his feet. We have to find another exit. There's gotta be a back door or something. But the hallway ahead wasn't the same. The door they'd passed moments ago was gone, replaced by a blackened arch, warped as if the cabin itself had shifted. Panic clawed at them. Liam whispered, voice shaking, It's like it's alive, watching, changing. Sarah turned to him, eyes wide. Stop saying that. Stop saying anything. It listens. Jenna shivered. Even from where she stood, she felt it, a pressure against her skull, like invisible fingers pressing her thoughts. Something old and malevolent had woken up, and it wasn't happy. The hallway of whispers. They moved cautiously down the narrow hallway. The air smelled of damp wood, mold, and something else, something metallic like rusted iron. Each step echoed too loudly, bouncing off of walls that seemed impossibly close. Then they heard it, soft, slithering whispers repeating their names, not in unison, but layered, overlapping, impossible to trace. Do you hear that? Mark said, voice low. His hands shook. It's saying our names, all of us. The whispers grew louder. Words formed, though in no language they recognized. Commands, pleas, threats. The floorboards beneath their feet rattled in time with the whispers, as if the house itself was speaking. Jenna's flashlight flickered. Shadows danced in the corners, shapes that were just a little too human, just a little too distorted. One of them, a tall, thin figure, seemed to float rather than walk, gliding silently toward them. Tyler lunged forward, shining his flashlight straight at it. Nothing. But when the beam passed, a new shadow appeared behind him. They spun around. Nothing, but a slow creaking came from above, the attic, they realized, and from it, a voice, a low, guttural hiss, calling Jenna's name directly. She froze. It knows me, she whispered. The others didn't answer. They couldn't. Fear had stolen their voices. The attic door Mark found a small door at the end of the hall, warped, but intact. Maybe this leads outside, he said. He tugged at it, but it wouldn't budge, and then the air shifted. A cold wind rushed through the hallway, extinguishing their flashlights. Darkness swallowed them whole. Get your lights back on! Jenna screamed. Tyler fumbled with his flashlight, shaking violently, and finally a weak beam pierced the darkness. What they saw made their stomachs drop. The hallway was no longer the same. The walls were covered in handprints, deep, black, burnt marks, like skin had been scraped off decades ago, and in the center of each handprint, faintly glowing eyes stared back at them. Sarah gagged. Oh God, oh God. She turned, and a shadow darted past the far wall. Too fast to see clearly, but definitely human-shaped. Then the whispers became screams, Not their own, but someone else's. Multiple voices, overlapping, wailing. One sound in particular cut through everything. A girl's scream, high-pitched, desperate, pleading, and it ended abruptly. Jenna's stomach lurched. That scream, it sounded familiar. Liam stumbled backward. That's that's from the news, from 1972. The girl who vanished here, Forsyth Cabin, she's still here. The first attack. Without warning, the shadows lunged, not all at once, but from multiple directions. Cold, intangible hands grabbed ankles, arms, and hair. Sarah screamed as something invisible slammed her into the wall. Tyler swung his flashlight wildly, catching glimpses of figures. Children? Adults? Something inhuman. Mark tried to pull Liam free, but a shadow wrapped around his wrist like iron chains. He couldn't move. Jenna, desperate, picked up a broken chair leg and swung at the nearest shadow. The figure vanished, but the impact left a handprint scorched onto the wood. "Keep moving!" she screamed. "To the stairs! The stairs!" The basement stairs had disappeared. In their place was a narrow staircase leading upward. No other exit. Their only option, the attic, the staircase. The climb was excruciating. Cold seeped through their bones. The shadows whispered, laughed, and screamed in a way that made their ears ring. Each step creaked, threatening to collapse under them. Tyler led the way, flashlight shaking. Almost there. But halfway up, the stairs groaned. A plank snapped. Mark fell, screaming, hitting the steps below. Jenna lunged to catch him, but something invisible yanked him downward further, dragging him out of sight. "No! Mark!" Sarah screamed, her voice cracking. Liam grabbed her arm. We have to go. Now!" Jenna looked up. The attic door loomed above, warped, blackened, and pulsing slightly, like it had a heartbeat. The were deafening now. Commands, threats, names, and one phrase repeated over and over in a guttural, chilling voice. "Stay forever." The attic. They reached the attic door. Jenna slammed it open. The room inside was empty. Dusty. Silent. Too silent. For a moment they thought they were safe. Then the door slammed shut behind them on its own. The shadows weren't gone. They were here, on the walls, on the floor, watching, waiting. And at the center of the attic, a single rocking chair faced them. Empty. But the whispers were louder than ever. Commands. Pleas. Threats. And behind them, Jenna felt it. Cold, skeletal fingers brushing her shoulder. She spun. Nothing. A whisper in her ear. "You belong here." Tyler screamed. Sarah screamed. Liam screamed. But it didn't matter. The cabin had them. And it was only beginning. The teens ran. Through the warped, twisting hallways where doors appeared and disappeared. Ceilings stretched impossibly and shadows clawed at them from every corner. They reached the original hallway from part one. The whispers tried to stop them, calling their names, promising safety if they stayed, but they kept moving, adrenaline and terror driving them forward. At the door, Jenna flung it open. Cold air hit their faces. Moonlight. Freedom, or so they thought. But outside, the forest was wrong. The trees were twisted, elongated. Shadows moved independently of their owners. Paths they had walked earlier were gone, replaced by a maze of thick undergrowth and blackened soil. Jenna realized the terrifying truth. The cabin's evil wasn't confined to the building. It had spread, and it wasn't finished with them. Being the last choice. Liam gasped. "There's only one way to stop it, and the ritual. We have to undo what was done here decades ago." They returned to the clearing where the cabin had once stood. Charred remains of the structure smoldered. In the center, the blackened ritual circle pulsed faintly, almost alive. Jenna picked up a broken branch, thrusting it into the circle. Sparks erupted. The air shook. Shadows screamed, twisting into grotesque forms, clawing at them. Sarah screamed as one of the shadow figures lunged toward her, but vanished when it touched the circle. The ritual's power was weakening. Liam shouted, "Keep going! Destroy it!" Together, the teens struck the circle repeatedly. Flames erupted. The ground trembled. The shadows shrieked, twisting, writhing, then dissipated. Silence fell. The cabin's remnants collapsed entirely, reduced to ashes. The air was still. Cold, yes, but peaceful. The escape. The teens looked around. The forest had returned to normal. Trees were straight, paths visible. The moonlight shone softly through the branches. No one spoke. Not yet. Tyler and Mark, they hadn't survived. The others were too shaken to mourn properly. They staggered back to the nearest road, limping, bleeding, exhausted, but alive. The aftermath. The teens never returned to the Forsyth Forest. They moved away. They never spoke of the cabin to anyone. Not friends, not family. But sometimes, late at night, Jenna would wake up in a cold sweat, hearing faint whispers outside her window. Liam once admitted he saw shadows move at the corner of his vision. Sarah had dreams of the cabin, of the circle, of the hollow-eyed children. The locals still tell the story. The cabin was said to be destroyed decades ago, but some say the evil lingers, waiting for curious teens, or anyone foolish enough to wander into the wrong forest at night, and perhaps those who survive. If you enjoyed this terrifying true story, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps us keep bringing you more real horror stories. Comment below and let us know. Could you survive the Forsyth cabin? And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next chilling tale, if you dare.